All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Roman Ozerski. I'm Director of Partner Sales here at Acumatica. I work with a team of partner account managers, and we manage many partners across US and outside. And I'm very excited to welcome everyone in today's webinar focused on historical data migration challenges. So we often run into Acumatica evaluations where customers will request or require migration of historical data from their legacy solution into the next ERP, hopefully, which will be Acumatica, of course. So the ASV partner presenting today is DataSelf, and they will walk us through a couple of options and scenarios on how that requirement could be addressed. So with that, please allow me to introduce Johnny Girardi, the founder and the CEO of DataSelf, and Tom Fitzpatrick, the solutions engineer. So guys, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roman. I'm very excited as well. I was a software engineer in my early career, became a business person, and then for the past 20 years, I've been helping mid-sized companies, companies that use systems like Acumatica to help their managers make more informed decisions. This particular webinar, overcome historical data loss objections to win new Acumatica business is a long topic, but we've been having more and more clients that have been knocking on our door with such a challenge, and there are different options on how to tackle this problem. Hopefully, this webinar will be informative, show you some additional options to tackle their needs. Tom, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yep, Tom Fitzpatrick, BI Solution Engineer with DataSelf. Today, I'll be primarily showing you a couple different demo scenarios here of how you can really you can leverage DataSelf for better historical analysis. But also, I'm typically the individual that you will deal with if you have a client, either a prospect or current client who is interested in more advanced or is just more data-driven and looking for something a little bit more than what Acumatica has out of the box for reporting. So I look forward to the demonstration today. We have a great webinar and look forward to hopefully talking with some of you after this call today.
Thank you, Tom. And by the way, this webinar is for Acumatica resellers. So the focus is on Acumatica resellers topics around historical data blending. So let me go to the next slide here. So typically, when an Acumatica VAR is working with a prospect considering a new modern ERP, at some point of the discussion, you guys go over something like this, the Acumatica data migration plan. And usually, you discuss the options, to move we call the master lists, the chart of accounts, the vendor master files, the customers, open documents, open AP, open AR, open SO, some financials for the last couple of years or so. So this is a very common scenario that what I've seen, and I've been in this business for over 20 years, that's pretty much the context that a VAR will present to a prospect. Many times prospects don't know exactly what's happening, so they'll check the boxes, just thinking that what they need is within the available options. So many times they just say, sure, check this box, and you're good. Is that it? Yeah, is that it? Well, the question is that sometimes is not addressed, is not even showed in a lot of these checkboxes is, what about historical transactions? What about the history of your AP, AR, your GL transactions, your project accounting? What about those transactions? The main rationale is, well, companies should be forward-looking. So why should you care looking at the past transactions if actually we're putting your business in a much better, more modern ERP, and let's help you get the most out of this ERP to move forward. There's no point in looking in the past of all those low transactions. For many businesses, that's true. Many businesses, they don't need to look at the past to decide something better for the future. At the same time, what we're seeing in the market pretty much is this whole new data-driven culture. A lot of businesses, they're investing in a modern ERP like Acumatica because, well, they are more data-driven. The old legacy system kind of sucked in many regards, and they want something modern, something that they can connect their multiple systems. And part of the investment is to have better visibility out of the business operations. And this is sometimes even driven by a younger, new generation of managers that are looking for being easily access to their trends, to their data, make more informed decisions, make better decisions moving forward. So this is very common to have this new data-driven culture. Now, I'm going to mention some examples where the legacy historical transaction retention, being able to look at the past history along with Acumatica was critical. And I'm going to make the case that many times this problem is a lot more common than many of ours think in a way, and why you should take the angle about this problem in a different direction. So this webinar will be around that. We have done historical data blending, bringing the legacy data and blended with the modern ERP for dozens of customers. With Acumatica, we have about a dozen customers. We have done this historical data blending. I'm going to mention just one of them, like Technicore, which is one of the most fascinating stories. Technicore is a construction company. And many, many years ago, when they decided to move to Acumatica, and I talked to the president, Peter, and he said that he would only be able to move to Acumatica if he was able to see, they work with projects, and many projects, they cross multiple years, and they work with many customers that they have multiple projects across multiple years. So it's a lot of customers with a lot of projects across multiple years. Many projects close, many projects open. And he said that, when he's negotiating with these customers, quite often he has to see the history of the projects, not only the open project that he's working on, but projects in the past to analyze profitability of the customer, challenges they have with the customer in the past around certain areas of the project, so he could make better decisions moving forward to make the best out of each project with each customer. So he said it was critical that when he moved to Acumatica, to be able to see project history for all projects, close and open, as well as financials across all the years from the old legacy system with Acumatica seamlessly. You should be able to see P&L, balance sheet, project accounting reports, like he never changed the accounting system. We helped implement that solution back in 2019. And he's been an active and amazing solution, and he continues to use today this idea of being able to look at the past, the current, and help him make better decisions for the future. Some of these other vendors, they are more like kind of in distribution business, and these customers, they have clients where, when you're selling to a new client, quite often you don't need to look at your past sales because you're negotiating a new deal. But many times when you are negotiating with the existing customers, even, retail clients or clients that are just buying from you frequently, sometimes there's seasonality, sometimes there's factors that you need to see what happened in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes before the pandemic, sometimes a long time ago, what happened with this client. So when you're negotiating new deals, you are contextual, you understand the challenge of the customer, how they operate, and how can you make a better deal to retain the customer or increase the profitability of your business. So there are many situations where you can only make a more informed decision looking forward when you actually look at the past to see what happened. And sometimes it's looking at AP, costs, what happened with the vendors when you're buying certain items. Sometimes can be, like I mentioned, projects to see what happens project-wise. Sometimes it's actually looking at sales orders that you lost or that you kept. There's a lot of things that you can learn from the past to decide better for the future. So back to this topic, why VARs as a rule don't have a checkbox on this list for historical transactions. Well, primarily there's not a checkbox because if you open this discussion, quite often it becomes a more, if the client says, oh, what do you mean I'm not going to have my history? Well, now you open potentially a can of worms, right? Sometimes solving this problem is not simple. Sometimes it's a lot of work, and sometimes it can be a lot of cost. So there's a concern of opening this question and going into a can of worms. So why not? Let's just, as I mentioned, when it comes to historical transaction data migration, option one is leave it out. Don't talk about it because the client might not need it. And if they need it, they're going to ask about this down the road when we're already deep into the project. At that point, they're not going to pull the plug. They'll continue with you, become a change order, and then things will continue, no problem. So why open the discussion now when you don't want to rattle the cage, right? You don't want to risk the business. Well, in my perspective, it really goes down to you being or setting up to be a trusted technology advisor. As a trusted technology advisor, your role is to ask the hard questions. And this can be a very hard question, right? And if you bring it up in this problem of historical data, transaction data migration is the same across all modern ERPs. We work with a lot of the Acumatica competitors, the NetSuites, the Intacts and whatnot, and they all have the same limitation. When it comes to historical data blending, it's limited. So the point is, most likely you and your competitors from other ERP systems are not, that checkbox doesn't exist in any of these VARs by default. Unless the client asks the question, you don't bring it up. Now, again, as a technology trust advisor that you're trying to get this status, if you bring up this question, the client's going to say, what do you mean you're not going to be bringing transactional history? Well, by default, we bring, and you explain the why. You bring the customer list, the chart of accounts, the open documents, and most clients don't need to look at the past. Do you need to look at the past to make more informed decisions for the future? If the client says yes, now you did your job, you raise a question that is a big problem, and now you have to show the options that you have to tackle this problem. And Acumatica has some ways to tackle this problem. And with DataSelf, when you cannot handle that problem in an inexpensive way, or if it's a complicated, DataSelf brings all the layers that you can really cover amazingly. And now if the prospect knows that this problem is, they have to ask this question for the other VARs that are competitors, and the other competitors don't have a BI solution in the plate, and their needs are more complicated, boy, you have an advantage. Now you showed that you ask questions that are important for their future. And guess what? In your portfolio of options, you have components to address that problem. No matter what it is, you have great solution for that problem. And part of this webinar is to show you options beyond what Acumatica offers. So I'm hoping at the end of the webinar, when we revisit the slides, we're going to tell that you should stop leaving it out. You should actually go to your template, add a new checkbox with historical transaction, and be confident to talk about it, because it will make you show that you are really asking all the hard questions in addressing the problem from the beginning, from the right angle. So let's see what options are available for you to address historical transaction data migration. And first, I'm going to tell the first problem. So what is the main pain that you're trying to solve by bringing the historical data into the future? Well, first of all, primarily is if you don't do that, the client is going to be unable to easily analyze historical transactions. That can be sales transactions, GL details, GL transaction details, project accounting, AP, AR, and you name it. So that's the first main pain. In Acumatica, one of the most common solutions to do this in Acumatica is primarily looking at what transaction history they want from the legacy system and just import as a table or tables in the Acumatica database, connect some GIs and say, hey, client, now that's it. Your historical data is in Acumatica. Here's how GIS works. We solve the problem. So this is the most common way to handle this problem, is just bring the data into Acumatica. We have seen sometimes that people try to also blend the data along with the actual tables, like the AR trend, the GL training, that can become very expensive, but that's one of the options. Option two, and this is a data self solution. So we're adding a new option that you don't have today unless you're using a data warehouse solution like data self. And we call historical data blending with the tables together. What does that mean? Right here, we're showing you have your Acumatica system that's going to have the live data. You have the legacy system that's going to be having frozen data. And then there's a separate database. This is a SQL Server data warehouse hosted somewhere where the Acumatica live tables are going to be replicated in SQL, and the legacy system tables are going to be imported in frozen in SQL data warehouse. Now, all the tables for reporting purposes from the legacy system are stored in a data warehouse. You can decommission the old system. And now, if or when you need to report out of those legacy systems tables, you just query the SQL data warehouse, and you can easily see the data side by side. What Tom is going to show next is in data self, once you do this data blending and keeping the tables together in the data warehouse, how easy it is with data self to query the live data from Acumatica in the legacy data in the same framework, in a very straightforward framework. So, Tom? And you're muted, by the way.
There we go. All right, so here we are within our historical sales analysis template. And it's important to note that this is a template. So this could be leveraged in a variety of other business areas, could be purchasing, inventory, just to name a few. But as Johnny just showed in that visualization, option one is you're taking your Acumatica data, you're taking your legacy ERP data, you're placing that inside of a data warehouse, but they are still separate of each other. But the nice thing here is with data self, you're going to give your customers, your clients, a very easy and dynamic view of this historical sales analysis. Okay, so it's going to allow them to consume, it's going to allow them to analyze, ultimately allow them to make more informed data-driven decisions. Okay, now in looking at this template here, on the left-hand side, we have our Acumatica data, we have our legacy ERP data on the right. I'm going to be able to slice and dice this in a variety of different ways. So right now I'm looking at sales broken down by customer and item, but maybe I don't want to see an entire customer list. There's just one particular customer that I'd like to do some sales analysis on. On the left-hand side, I have some filters here. So I could filter this by branch, salesperson, customer name, item, what have you. We'll select customer name here, and we'll choose AgriLink Foods just as an example. And here now we're seeing just a subset, just my historical sales analysis for this particular customer. Okay. Maybe I want to view, not back to 2027, but I want to just go 2030. Okay. What I can do, and these are invoice sales here, is I can update this filter here. And you can see that that legacy ERP data has dropped off. And it's dropped off because my Acumatica in this use case, they went live with Acumatica effective 1/1/2030. So there is no legacy data that's needed to consume. But within here, I could slice and dice this further. So if I wanted to, I could expand this out where now I have access to that invoice number. And just like in Acumatica, anything that's blue is a hyperlink that you could drill down into the source document. Within Acumatica, or within DataSelf, I'm sorry, because it can be embedded inside of Acumatica, I could drill into this document and it's going to take me to that invoice and memo page. Okay. Maybe I want to see, let's look at this back to 2022. Simply type that in. and instantly and accurately, it's going to populate and render that historical data for me because this data has already been pre-crunched, pre-digested within the SQL Server data warehouse. So again, ultimately, at the end of the day, what DataSelf solves here is giving your end users, your clients, easy visibility into consuming and analyzing historical sales analysis to make more informed data-driven decisions that gets them out of having to leave, an instance of their legacy ERP open, running, so that they have to, extract that data, export that data to Excel, export data from Acumatica, place them into an Excel table, do a lot of manual manipulations, time and effort to really get the analysis they need. With DataSelf, you have this all in a one-stop shop view within your Acumatica instance. Johnny, anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, just a quick note. A few of the clients that knock on our door to help with this problem, they were already live with Acumatica. And just like Tom said, they were primarily using Excel as the way to combine the legacy data with the Acumatica. And Excel is an amazing tool until it isn't. And when things start to become slow, and then the first ones make a decision, now we have to call the business analyst to export the report to Excel. Sometimes Excel crashes, sometimes the data is incorrect. So it can become what we call an Excel hell. In this framework here, even though the data behind the scenes is still separate tables, the structure of the ERP, the old one is still separate from Acumatica. But because DataSelf has a BI solution, when you look at the report, looks like the data is together. Visually, if you can look at those reports, you can see the same customer, you can see what happened in those 2 periods, and mentally you can make a decision, oh, this customer was buying these items, now they're no longer buying, and making from decisions. So this eliminates exports, eliminates Excel, eliminates decision makers waiting for people to do manipulation outside of Acumatica to make more informed decisions.
I have a question for you guys. So in some instances, you have a way to import the data directly into Acumatica from a legacy solution. So can you talk a little bit about differences between that option and an option of using DataSelf?
Yep. Roman, that's a very good question. Interestingly enough, the few times that when people came to knock on our door was because they were doing things in Excel. Like I mentioned, they were exporting to Excel and going through the manipulation in Excel. And in Acumatica, if you bring the data to the Acumatica and you put GIs, theoretically, you could also build something like this dashboard in Acumatica. Yes, you can. So why don't people use more of this functionality in Acumatica? So my first answer is, I don't know. I think they could do some of it, right? It's there. However, some of the things that we do better than Acumatica, even from the standpoint, is, first of all, in DataSelf, the filters and the interactivity between the dashboards or the widgets can be controlled centrally. So when Tom changed the invoice date, it affects the reports on both sides. When he changed the customer name, it affects the reports, both reports together. My understanding is in Acumatica, you have limited ways to work across different widgets. Each widget is controlled separately. So this is one difference. The BI provides more ways to interact across multiple widgets within the dashboard. Second, and sometimes is also important, many times when people care about their historical data, they have lots of data. Coincidence or not, people that are very data-driven, they usually do a lot of analysis in data. And when you do a lot of analysis with data, with a lot of data, if you're hitting Acumatica live system, you're going to have performance issues. This is the same issue with all the ERP systems. ERP systems are not designed to handle query in real time of large or complex data rules. And that's why companies in the BI world, and it's a huge industry that DataSelf is part of, that's how we make our money. It's taking data out of the source systems, running reports much faster, pretty much in seconds, without affecting the performance of the source system, in providing ways to more easily slice and dice the data.
Thank you. That was a great answer. And again, this is for large sets of data is when it will affect performance.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take the control again to continue the presentation. All right. So that was the solution number one to this problem. Now we have a second solution that quite often is what clients decide to go. And we call also historical data blending, but now the data is blended. And what is the difference between this and the other one? Well, primarily, as I'm showing here, not only we brought the legacy data to the data warehouse, but then tables or business areas that the client cares to do historical data analysis, what they want to do is to do seamless historical data analysis. Because at the end of the day, even though you changed your ERP, you still have usually the same customers, the same vendors, the same salespeople, the same territories, the same items. Maybe you're changing the IDs, but the entities behind those IDs are still the same. And you wanna let your salespeople, your project managers, let them analyze the business behind the numbers like you never changed the accounting system. Like in this example, I'm taking, for instance, if you take, the AR trend table, the GL trend table, the PM trend table, those are very technical terms, but behind the scenes, those tables have the details of sales, of GL transactions, of PM transactions. And then the table in the data warehouse will have the equivalent data from the legacy system blended and glued together. There's a single table for AR trend where the live starts on a certain day, and behind that is legacy data blended and transformed to match with the Acumatica equivalent. AR trend, AR invoice, AR register, GL trend, all of these tables, we can blend them. And once you do this blending, then when business people are analyzing their transactions, it looks like they never changed the accounting system. It looks like they're working with Acumatica forever. And to show this in real life, Tom is going to show again how this works on the user interface.
Great. So here now we are within our slicer template. And again, these are just templates. So I could use this not just from a sales perspective, inventory, purchasing, projects perspective. Right now, we're just looking at sales broken down by a customer in 2030. Okay, but let's say I want to look at that legacy or that historical analysis. On our right-hand side, we have our filters here. I could just select all and apply. And here you can see now, we have going back to 2026 in this use case, I'm able to consume my legacy and current Acumatica data in one view. Okay, this is blended together, seamless integration. If you recall from our previous, from the previous demonstration, our legacy ERP data was in green. We did that on purpose, primarily just so you could differentiate between the legacy and your Acumatica data. But now your clients, your customers, they're going to be able to consume that legacy data, again, blended together. But this is where then they can do ad hoc analysis through the slicer. So being able to easily slice and dice their data into smaller bite-sized pieces. So maybe they don't want to see sales broken down by customer. Maybe they want to see it broken down by salesperson. Simply select our option here up at the top, salesperson, and in a second or two, now I'm seeing sales broken down by salesperson, okay, across all of our sales data going back to 2026. Maybe I want to build upon this. I want to see not my customer data, but I want to see my item data. Select the drop-down, item, and now we have that item data rendering for us. Maybe now I want to see that customer data. Okay, again, expand, drop down. Again, it's just simple point-click functionality, allowing easy answers to ad hoc questions. The nice thing being that they have access to data going back to, in this use case, sales data going back into their legacy system. So again, only helping them or empowering them to make more informed decisions in this use case option, or in this option, this data is blended together, so it's much easier to consume. Johnny?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. Yep. Now, let me, when we show prospects the two options, option 1 and option 2, guess what? Everyone says, I want option 2, because I don't have to think about it. I don't have to mentally join it. It's just all because at the end of the day, again, even though the ERP has changed, but the same customer, same products, same salespeople, the project might not. So people want this. The question is, why people would go for option 1 and not always option 2? The reason is cost, right? There's more effort to more professional services. From a license standpoint, there's usually no change. Is both systems work the same from a license standpoint, from a data warehouse standpoint, but there's more effort to actually blend the data seamlessly. Sometimes the effort is not that big, and then people go with this option 2. But sometimes to align all the dots to be able to do this kind of analysis completely seamlessly can be quite a bit of effort. So I always tell people, you have more options. When you go with data self, you have more options to show the client. And again, if the VAR, competitor VAR, doesn't have a solution like data self in their portfolio, and the client needs historical data analysis, and you show these options, I guarantee the client's going to be very excited with what you're bringing to the table, while the competitor is going to be suffering or struggling to come up with this, something similar.
Well, Johnny, are there any other popular use cases that separate option 1 and option 2?
The devil is in the details, right? There's always a lot of, I can answer this question multiple ways, but one way that to me really tells apart option 1 from option 2 is when you blend them together, like in option 2, you can really do trend analysis. And many times when you're trying to make better decisions for the future, you have to see trend analysis in the past. Thank you, Tom. Tom is showing here one example that shows just visually the concept of the historical data blending. Because we have the data together, in this chart is showing the top 2 customers and just showing sales trends. And we have 2 lines, one for one customer and one for the other customer. The green is the legacy data, the black is the live data. Again, we're just showing 2 colors for you guys because you are VAR and you care to mentally understand the concept. In production, there's only 1 color. For the customer, it doesn't matter where the data comes from. What I care is it going up, is it going down, and why? And in here, with the BI solution, being able to see trend analysis across multiple years, and you can slice and dice it. Tom, can you just change the branches to show how easy it is to right now, we're just applying a filter that once you apply the filter, choose like a product retail. You see that, automatically, as you're analyzing for every branch, what's happening with my top customers, you can quickly see the result. You don't have to export Excel. You don't have to ask anyone to do anything. As a business person, you are focused on the problem. Again, is it going up? Is it going down? Why? And being able to change things. So, Roman, in a way, to me, one of the main reasons why clients would go through the extra effort to blend the data is when they are really data-driven, and past trends can help them make better decisions in the future, and then it's worth the additional investment. So, trend analysis is usually a main reason why people would go for the extra investment.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Let's move on. I'm going to take control again. All right. Thank you, Tom. The next topic that sometimes can be an issue is if the legacy system has lots of transactions. Usually, it's not a very good idea to move that data into a new ERP system, because you're going to start the new ERP system with lots of data, and you already start to tax the source system with data that is not useful for the new system except for reporting. So instead of putting old data, lots of data in a new system, don't do it. Put in the data warehouse in data self in a BI solution. That way, you're not going to slow down Acumatica. Acumatica is going to continue to run amazingly fast. And when you run reports out of the legacy system, you're not hitting Acumatica, you're hitting your BI system, and therefore the performance will be amazing. So performance issues, we usually tell people, if you have lots of data, legacy data or not, and you might have performance issues, no matter what your new ERP is, call us, because from a reporting standpoint, we usually can address that. As a rule in data self, we tell if a report is taking longer than 10 seconds to render the data, call us. Call us because we have ways usually to keep reports running in seconds, no matter how much data you have, how many companies, how much, it doesn't matter the data volume, we can handle things and make things run really fast. Now, the second pain point that is also associated to not bringing legacy data to the new system, Acumatica / data self. If you don't do that, if you don't offer a solution for them to bring the data and they need to do historical data analysis, what's going to happen is the cost of keeping the legacy system alive, because people cannot kill the legacy system because they need to see data back. Sometimes for auditing purposes, they need to keep it for 5 years, sometimes even more. And sometimes just the cost of the licenses to keep the legacy system can be a burden. We have a recent client that when they came to us, they were already using another modern ERP system, and their yearly subscription was very expensive, was close to 6 figures just to keep their license current. They were moving to Acumatica. They were pretty much at the end of the transition, but the new ERP would have a renewal coming up quickly, and they would have to put another almost 6 figures investment. And then what they did is they called it a self. We got all the data from the legacy, from this other modern system. We brought all the data into the data warehouse so they could decommission the other system right away. And then all the reporting needed and all the data for moving into Acumatica was in the data warehouse. So no worries about keeping the legacy system alive, because the data they need for reporting is in a data warehouse, and now you have full access to the data regardless of the legacy system being available. So just the cost of the license can be big in the long run if you have to keep the legacy system. The second is also the human cost of keeping a legacy system around. Just, in case you need to do reports in the legacy system, credentials to the legacy system, sometimes they change things, that they no longer work. Just knowing where to go, maybe you change the people that are involved in the process, and now you need to run a new report out of the legacy system, but nobody knows how to do it, and it becomes a nightmare. So there's an important reason why moving the data over the legacy data over the new platform is to really detach clients from the past and move them to the future. And sometimes, data warehousing, data self will be part of their solution. We're showing here some of the common systems, other competitors or other ERP systems that we have moved data from their legacy into a new ERP like Acumatica. Now, good news is data self as being an enterprise BI solution, we can bring data from any source system. Doesn't matter if the client is using an AS400 from 40 years ago, or if they're using some proprietary system that they built. We really have resources and technology to bring data from any data source and blend it with the data from Acumatica and other systems as needed. So this is pretty much how we do it, addressing these kind of problems. We called our data warehouse framework. Primarily, no matter what the data source you have, we bring this data into a SQL Server data warehouse. We call the data self data warehouse. Can be in the cloud, our cloud, the client's cloud, your cloud, if you're hosting your client's data, can be on premises, doesn't matter what it is, but this is a SQL Server data warehouse. And a lot of the data warehouse effort is no code. Many of people that maintain the data warehouse, they know nothing of coding because the most of the data warehousing deployment and maintenance requires zero coding. However, just like Acumatica, you also have the low code and full code capabilities. Some reporting problems can be very complicated, and then we provide full SQL capabilities to massage the data as needed. Once the data has been kept in the data warehouse, maintained, automatically refreshed, massaged to do better reporting, then we support multiple ways that people can analyze their data. We're showing here some options that are very popular when people are looking at better reporting tools. Of course, Excel, very popular, but Power BI, Tableau, Domo, and whatnot. If the legacy system has a SQL compatible reporting tool like Crystal, Reporting Services, Excel, quite often we can move all their data from the legacy system into the SQL Server data itself. They can take their legacy reports, point to the data warehouse database, and right off the bat, the legacy reports they had before will continue to work out of the data warehouse exactly as it was working before. Maybe this is a little bit too technical for some of you, but on the reporting side, we can bring a lot of value to help clients detach from their legacy system and move into a modern reporting platform and with Acumatica as the ERP system. The second solution we also bring to these problems is we have an extensive library of reports and dashboards with more than 8,000 KPIs connected to Acumatica, AP, AR, GL, inventory, purchasing, sales order, CRM opportunity, payroll, and you name it. And depending what ERPs they're coming from, like, Sage, Dynamics, and whatnot, the same reports will work with their data. So when we're looking at, let's say, the slicer that Tom was showing, if the client has some of these legacy systems that we already have connectors to, quite often the ability to blend the data seamlessly, the option 2, as Tom was showing, will be easy. And then there will be a lot of reports ready to go on day one, so they don't have to be starting new reports from scratch or custom reports in the new Acumatica system. The data self library will accelerate time to get reports to management's hands. And with the solutions 1 and 2, primarily what we're doing is we're helping companies to decommission the legacy system sooner than later. So at the end of the day, the main reason why many companies need to know about legacy data, legacy transactions, is because they're becoming data-driven. And the idea is, if you don't if you don't ask them this question, and they're going to realize only later that actually, oops, we need this data, they're not going to be happy. You're going to be telling, why the heck you didn't tell me before the sale that this data was not coming in? I didn't have the technical knowledge. It was your job to tell me, and you're telling me only now that we have to go live in 1-2 months. It's a very hard conversation. So you should be bringing the conversation earlier, especially because with data self, if you bring the conversation before during the pre-sales, you have an amazing portfolio of options to tackle that need in case they have it, while the competitor of yours that doesn't have a BI solution like data self, they'll be in hot waters because it's not easy to solve the problem if you don't have an enterprise solution like data self. And that's pretty much why I would tell people, always add a checkbox to your data migration form, have the discussion. If you need to call us to be in the discussion to show these options and explain to the client how Acumatica and data self together, they offer more options to solve. If you want to, call us, Tom will be happy to be in calls. I'll also be happy to educate you and the clients and see when we're a good fit. As the next steps, if you have questions or comments about how your clients can avoid the historical data objections, the phone and the email is here. Also, the Acumatica Marketplace has a lot of our materials. We have close relationships with your PAMs, your CSMs, with Roman and whatnot. So feel free to reach out to Acumatica to get the conversation going, and we'll be here to educate you and your clients. With that, we'll open Q&A.
Johnny, I don't know if you saw there's a question. There's one question in the panel. Do you see it?
See it. Nope.
Oh, okay. What if the client is changing IDs, so a customer or vendor ID goes to an auto-generated number?
Yeah, IDs is when we start to have where the devil is, right? The details. Usually, when you are moving data from a legacy system to Acumatica, it's your job as a VAR to create conversion tables. IDs that are what is the old ID and where it's going to land in the Acumatica ID, and that applies to chart of accounts, customer IDs, vendor IDs, item IDs. So usually, as part of your job converting data, you have to create this ID conversion tables. DataSelf usually will take these tables and plug them as to link the legacy data IDs with the live data IDs. So in the data warehouse, we use those conversions to make the magic. Now, what usually you don't have to worry is you will only build the conversion IDs for the things of the recent past. And many times clients, they have been changing their IDs over the years. And chart of accounts is a good example that sometimes clients have in the course of 5, 10, 20 years, sometimes they change chart of accounts multiple times. So you only convert the last chart of accounts to the new one. And when the client wants to run a financial 10 years ago, 3 chart of accounts ago, using your conversion, we cannot do with only one ID conversion. So in DataSelf, usually converting IDs is a bigger conversation because we go back to the whole company history, not only to the most recent one. I'm going through this long discussion to tell there is not a simple answer to this question. Typically, we have to see what the problem is, why you cannot handle this problem, let's say with the Acumatica per se, or if you can, how you're doing it. And then when we're bringing legacy data, what are the implications of this conversion ID and how we can use data warehousing techniques to pretty much tackle any case. We have many cases where we teach the client how to adjust IDs as they move forward, because quite often there's an initial heavy lifting where all the IDs are converted on day 1, but quite often on day 5, 10, they realize, oops, I forgot something. And then, oops, I forgot something. Then instead of calling us or you guys all the time to fix those IDs, we give a framework where the client can easily download the IDs, update what they forgot, reload. It's like a table that has more conversion IDs as they figured that some were missing. And then they can maintain the IDs without calling us or you guys to keep up that maintenance. It's a good question.
Yep. I don't see any other questions.
Johnny, real quick, just to build upon that answer, let's say that the name is the same. Can you pull by the name and not the ID in this scenario that was built out from a legacy to Acumatica?
Yes, you can. The problem is most of the times the names are not kept well. People put commas, no commas, they misspell things. Even though using descriptions is an option how we can link tables in the data warehouse, yes, we can. But one of the things that I have seen more frequently is actually having the conversion IDs in an Excel file where users know how to open Excel, they know how to maintain manually, and then we provide them with a simple process that they can download the conversion ID that is currently applied to the system. They make changes to whatever they need to change and then publish it back up to the system. But yes, if so, for some client, by the way, one common problem with client names is actually client names change over time. Not unusual for clients being acquired. Addresses have changed. They moved to a different location. It's still the same company, and now they're moving to a different location. So how can you handle all of those scenarios where you want to analyze a customer, but now they are a different territory, but it's the same customer, to who they belong to? There's a lot of reporting problems that with a BI solution like DataSelf on top of Acumatica, tackling those problems become, I mean, you have more options to tackle them. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for joining the call. Like Roman mentioned, we are here to assist you guys. Our first main goal is education. We are very partner driven. We want to be sure that you guys understand the options we bring to the table, how we can help you and your clients be more successful. We're very respectful of the way you want to approach your clients. If you want to just present yourself without DataSelf, as we being part of your team or as an ISV, it's up to you. Some of the good things is we are fulfilled by Acumatica. So if you place an order for DataSelf, the order actually comes from Acumatica and you get your margin as part of the whole deal. So you don't have to buy the license from us. I want to thank Tom for participating in the call today and for Roman to do the introduction and for the good questions.
Thank you.
Thank you and happy hump day, guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, everyone.